Let's talk to Nick. Hey, Nick, pronouns are he, him, and he is a fellow snow bro from the lovely country of Canada. Nick grew up Christian, still learning. He's wondering if it's a good idea to convince religious people of non-binary genders. Nick, welcome to the
Hi.
show. You are on Secular Sexuality.
Wondering, this is something that might have sort of helped convince me, I guess, of different sexualities or different, genders, I guess, of people. When I was Christian, that there's actually a scientific backing behind some different genders and that kind of thing. So I wondered if you guys thought this might be a good sort of stepping off point to introduce, my hardcore Christian family members or friends or whatever about the concept of trans people and that kind of thing.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. And I think the most important one, Ben kind of already alluded to, is that distinction between sex and gender. And certainly we've, talked about that a million different times on this show. But, I think that the conversation we've been having about the sort of like blended nature of sex and how there is not this like two discrete packages, very much flies in the face of the whole, male, female, he created them kind of dichotomy. But I want to be really sensitive to the idea that we might be presenting, which is that somebody's gender needs to be like evidenced in their genetics, or that we need to be able to like point towards a specific hormone in order to like validate or verify somebody's experience of their gender. And so to that end, I perhaps feel a little concerned, while acknowledging that my faith completely fell apart the moment I started looking into a lot of these very same questions. So that's kind of it for me. I'll back off and let y'all jump in.
Nick, is your question like, is it worth it? That's kind of what I read from the call screener notes. Is that kind of what you're getting at? Or is it kind of like, how do I do it?
I'm probably using some of the wrong words, but I'm just wondering if that could be sort of like a jumping off point, not necessarily. I've been listening to the show for a while now. I've listened to a bunch of back episodes and that kind of thing, where I understand that that's not exactly what we're, I guess, aiming for in the long run, but as sort of a jumping off point to start the conversation in the right direction with sort of hardcore religious people.
So I don't know if science is the direction we want to take with something like this, in all honesty, because kind of what I mentioned a bit earlier is people love to look at trans people as pathologies. And I think I don't want to give ammo to people to say, yeah, you're diseased or you have an illness because you're trans or you're non-binary. So it's kind of a weird thing, because normally I would love to say, yeah, we need to go hardcore to the evidence. You need to prove things to me. But with something so sociological and so culture dependent, society dependent, individual dependent, it's one that I don't really want to give people the idea that we're diseased in any way. So that's the one reason why I wouldn't jump straight to science on this one, even though I might say that for other things. And I do think, if we can greatly differentiate between sex and gender, because I don't want kind of their religious views on either of those things. They're typically wrong on both fronts of that, but I think it's a different conversation with regard to the science behind the sex versus the sociology and the psychology behind being trans.
Yeah,
Okay,
one thing I might try
fair.
with a religious person, Nick, is like maybe something like, well, either God's wrong, they're wrong, or you're wrong. And God doesn't make mistakes. There seem to be an awful lot of folks who identify as non-binary, gay, trans, what have you, And they seem pretty convinced of it. So if God's never wrong, and we've got all these people who seem to be having this lived experience, and the only other option that I can think of is that maybe you're wrong, is that maybe somewhere we could start off, right? Like, consider the fact that you might be incorrect in your views, and kind of getting back to what I was saying earlier, is it worth it to proceed with this person? Like, can you admit that you might have things mixed up? What do you think of that?
Yeah, that's fair. I honestly, I just wanted to hear your guys' opinion on it. You're definitely far more of the experts on this stuff than me, so I just was curious if that was a path that you guys thought was worth taking. But it sounds like it's probably not really a good idea, and I really do appreciate Ben's input on that one for sure.
Hey, these two are the experts.
Well, I'll just say it of course depends on the environment, right? On the situation. I've acknowledged on this show a number of times that it was watching a lot of queer film and realizing that these gay people weren't just making these like sinful decisions out of nothing or just to, spite God, and pulling on that thread. Really, I mean, it got me here. I mean, my dad would be so pissed if he knew that I was hosting a atheist sex show with all of you damn dirty heathens, because this is so much the opposite of the messaging that I was taught. And so, yeah, I do think that those like very deeply human stories that involve people's gender, that involve people's sexuality, and the like collision course that those very real human beings are on against a nameless, faceless, shapeless ideology that's full of like vitriol and hate towards them, that's going to move people. And I do think that those are stories worth sharing. But in terms of like using the existence of complicated genetics as sort of a gotcha card for, your average rank and file Christian, I share a lot of Ben's concerns.
I wouldn't start there either.
But I do really appreciate your call and your
for
interest
that,
in all this. Yeah, well, thank you.
Yeah,
You
no,
have
that's
a great
awesome.
night.
I truly appreciate it. I just, if I could quickly, Nate, I just wanted to throw it out there as a fellow construction worker. I also wear a pink hard hat, and it's some of the greatest conversation starters I ever had.
Ah, yes, my man. Love it.
Nice.
Well, Nick, I'll leave you with the maxim that I've always lived by when confronting religious folks is it worth it? Does this person matter enough to me to actually try to sway them? Do I think there actually is a chance that they'll change their mind? Are they actually interested in the truth? It's all good things to think about when you're having these conversations on the job site in your pink hard hat. Thanks for calling, Nick.
Yeah, have a great night.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, well,
Okay,
Ben,
that's at least 2 Canadians that work in construction that wear pink hard hats. So,
I mean, I'm going to go ahead and just assume that he's wearing one because of you, that you're the trendsetter, whether he knew it or not, that you're starting a movement here. And I just appreciate it and want to be a part of it.
yes, the pink hard hat movement. Oh, yeah.